let's do the overhead here. As you can see, there's the recess that we did earlier, did the nice decoration and things. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to mount this chuck into the recess here. And I'm going to zoom this camera out a little bit. I always forget which way to push it. But this will just seat right in there. I close the jaws all the way down. And they're just going to open up just a little bit. It's not going to take much to get this tightened up in there. You don't want to over crank it and crack that recess. So you just want to widen it up. We're going to bring the tail center up in a minute. And I'm holding it with my finger to give it equal pressure all the way around. If I try to hold it this way or that way, it can throw the piece out and it won't run true. So I just push it in with my finger once it's snug in there a little bit. And I'm just going to snug it up just a little bit and see how the back is running. The front's going to be out of kilter a little bit. It looks straighter than the back side was from this morning. So the back is running true. This part looks like it still needs a little bit of work, but a lot of that's going to disappear when we create the rim, so I'm not too concerned about that at this point. We'll get to that if we need to. So I'm just going to snug it up a little bit more here. And I always turn the chuck and do both sides here, just to be sure. All right, so that's good and snug. Should not go anywhere. So I'm going to bring my tail center up. Just make sure my banjo's not rubbing on the piece. And I'm just going to bring that out just a little bit until I bring my tail center up. Make sure I get shavings out of there so I can bring it up closer. And this is just going to go slightly into that hole we made earlier. But this is more or less just to add extra support. Make sure that, okay, it's hitting the banjo just a little bit. There we go. All right, so that should be good. Make sure it's good and tight. Make sure your tool rest is where you need it. I'm going to bring it in just a little tad more, but don't let it hit the wood. Make sure it runs parallel to the piece. All right. So I'm going to grab my freshly ground 5/8 bowl gouge. I'm about 850 RPMs. Any faster and it'll probably start shaking again until we get this trued up, and then I'll speed it up a little bit more. So the same thing, I'm just going to do some push cuts towards the headstock. So the front isn't as out of true as the back was, so this shouldn't take very long to get done. So we still need time to do some coloring on the rim. And once I get this pretty much trued up, I'm going to stop the lathe and just have a look at it and see how that grain is. Just one more pass like this and it should be trued up. Just the shavings are just piling up on my arm. So it is cutting really nice.
Tool toward you with your foot pushing toward the head stack. That's why you call it a push cut.
Yeah, I'm doing a push cut towards the headstock. I'm pushing the tool into the wood. I've got the bevel angled straight, just like this. It's parallel with the bedways. The flute is almost closed, in between 45 and closed. Somewhere in there, probably about like, I would say 11 o'clock. If it's open, it's 12 o'clock. So it'd be 11, 12, oh, almost 9 o'clock. Be like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Close would be 9 o'clock. That's 12 o'clock, so it'd be like at about 9:30. Gives you an idea of angles and things. I like to use the clock method. It's easier to kind of picture. And I'm just taking that tool and I'm just pushing it into the wood towards the headstock. And yeah, I do it in steps. I'm not doing any pulling or pushing. I'm just pushing straight into the wood. And now you can see, because I pushed in, it has that little nubbin right there where the tailstock is. All that's going to go away in a minute. I'm going to clean some of these shavings off myself here. And now I'm going to do a pull cut, or a draw cut towards me, or pull cut, draw cut. So I'm going to start here in the center, and I'm going to start on leaning on my left foot. And I'm just going to bring it back. I'm not riding the bevel. I'm just riding right there on the cutting edge. This isn't a bevel rubbing type of cut. If it was, I would open it up like this, but then what would happen if I was trying to rub the bevel, the wood's going to grab the tool and it's going to flip it on you and cause a catch. So that's why I'm at 9:30. If I was like rubbing the bevel like this and I got to put that bevel into the wood, it's going to snap and cause one heck of a catch. So that's why I'm doing it closed and just cutting right there on that edge. And I'm just leaning back with the cut, not using my arms. I'm not going back and forth with my arms at all. And I'm in an uncomfortable position, so I'm going to stop there. And one more. We're going to do a few of these. And then I need to readjust, stand a little further back, my left foot. Adjust the tool. I was too far back here. I need to be more closer to the tip. So I want to get rid of a lot of this. So I'm going to do a push cut down here. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a push cut to the thickness of the rim I want. So that's pretty nice. I don't want to go really, really thin. Maybe just take a little bit more off, not much. There we go. It's about as thin of a rim I want to go, so I'm just going to start doing push cuts. Those first cuts are just to get the piece balanced so I can turn up the speed a little bit. So if I turn up the speed, these cuts will go a little bit faster. You can tell because of the speed, I'm able to make the cuts a little faster. This is just roughing cuts to get rid of a lot of this waste wood. Okay, so I'm running into that heartwood again, so it's getting a little choppy right through here. So I'm going to take lighter cuts so it's not fighting me so much. That heartwood's going to be pretty once I put an oil finish on this. Yeah, that's that heartwood we were fussing around with earlier. This was causing that cut. You could tell because when I come out of it, it kind of smooths out a little bit. So I'm getting what I'm working on is creating a kind of a concave into the wood. kind of going down a very, very shallow type of bowl type of cut right now. And then when I get towards the end here, towards the rim, as I lean back, I kind of lighten up the cut. So I don't want to take any more of that rim off that I already taken off. But what I want to do is create like a nice soft flowing rim that's going to go inward towards the platter, not outwards. It feels much better when you pick it up. If you're holding it, it's got a kind of a curve going in instead of out. That's something I learned from Jimmy Clues. For my first several platters, I made the rim kind of flow outwards, and he convinced me that by picking up a platter he made, I was able to feel the difference, and I really like what he does. So I took his advice to heart, and that's how I make my platters now. I love making platters. It's one of my favorite projects to make. All right, so we're going to have a look-see. And then we need to mark the size of our rim that we want to create. All right, so we got some really, really pretty wood right here, as you can see. That's going to look gorgeous. Okay, so we got still a bump right in this area. That's what I'm feeling for. Any indents or bumps or anything. And so we got just a little high spot right here, so I want to get rid of that. I'm going to mark it with a pencil so I know where it is. It's right in here. So I'm just going to take my pencil and just kind of draw it across. That way I know where to cut and I don't take any more wood off than I need to. It's a pull cut here. I'm just going to go back and forth. And we'll see how that looks or feels in my hand here. Your hand tells you a lot. It's almost gone. Just a little bit more. Because this is going to be part of the rim, and like I said, I want it flowing in with a bump there. It's going to feel like it's flowing out. So you definitely want to get rid of that. We'll work on it a little more once we mark where we're going to do the shallow part of the platter. We'll curve this in a little bit better. That's best just to try to get the humps and bumps and dips out of it now along that area. So, okay, so it's got a little bit bump here. That's fine. That's right towards the rim. We're going to kind of blend that in anyway, so that'll be fine. So it's flowing inward now. So I'm going to mark a pencil. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a third of the rim. So I'm going to grab me my long ruler here. So I need 8 inches. So what I'm going to do like before, I'm going to do 2 1/4 for rim. I'll add a lot of nice color to it. I might just do 2 inches, though, give a little more working area on the platter if you're going to use it for serving food and things like that. It's best to have a little bit extra room there. So. All right, so that's going to be the size of our rim. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring me I'm going to grab me my parting tool again. Where did I set it down at? And I'm just going to just put a nice little groove right here just to give me an idea of where to work at so I don't lose that mark once I cut that pencil away. Don't need to go in real deep. Just enough to give me an idea of where I'm working. And I'm going to switch back over to the overhead. There we go. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to start shallowing this out a little bit with a bolt, my smaller bolt gouge, my 1/2 inch. Just kind of deepen it in a little bit, and then I'm just going to make this whole area nice, almost like a slight dome from the center and deeper as I get out. Because if you put any like meat or anything on here to serve it on, all the juice, oh, that was the wood, my banjo touched it. That way any juices from like meat or anything else will flow to the edge and not puddle in the middle. So it's nice just to have a nice soft, very slight dome in the middle, just from the center out of your platters. So this is a push cut. I've got the tool at 45 degrees. I'm using just on the right side of the tip here. I'm cutting right there on that part of the tip. Let's see if you guys can see that a little bit. There we go. Just on this side of the right part of the tip. 45 degrees. The flute's open, and we're just doing a nice soft push cuts. And you can tell by the sound of the wood it's getting thinner. Not so thin that I'm going to break through or anything, but that's something you got to be aware of too, because you do have a recess on it, so you don't want to go so thin that you're going to make this huge ring in the end and take out the center part of your platter. So I'm just doing the opposite of a pull cut. Instead of leaning back, I'm getting on my left foot here, putting it out, putting my right foot behind me, and I'm just pushing, leaning forward with the cut. And I just adjust as I go, and I'm just leaning into the cut. And I'm going to kind of make it lighter and lighter because, like I said, I wanted to create a dome in the center. So I'm doing a heavier cut on the outside and a lighter cut as I get towards the middle.
And you're writing the bevel on that tip, huh?
Yeah, I'm writing the bevel on this cut. It's sort of like my steering wheel. See, if I was to bring my tool handle away from me, it would make a deeper cut. If I pull it away, it brings the tool out of the cut. Just like this. If I was to pull the handle towards me, it goes away, just like that. And if I was to push it into the cut, it's going to go deeper in just like that. So it's like a steering wheel almost. And I'm not putting any force on the bevel. It's kind of a thing of mine that they say, rub the bevel. And a lot of people I've talked to and taught, when they've heard that, they push on the bevel. Like, they got to rub the bevel. What it is you're floating the bevel. You're kind of gliding it across the wood. You don't need to push on it. You don't need to force it in and rub the bevel per se. It's more just like a steering wheel almost. Just a light touch on the bevel. Doesn't need to be heavy. So I need to keep going a little bit deeper here, just to create that dome. And this part, I'll come back and clean that up in a minute. I just want to get that dome started towards the center. So I'm swinging the handle around with the bevel so I can go a bit deeper of a cut, and then I'll bring it back out. Just like that, and you can see the cut kind of got a little bit lighter, not as heavy. So I'm going to grab me a small ruler and just see how much more I need to take away here to create that dome. So I'm just going to put this right here. So it's kind of deep in the center. So I got a lot of this to still work in because it's kind of got a dish concave right there. You can see it on the camera where you can see that open spot right through here. It's not huge, but it's enough to where you'll really notice it. So we need to go a little bit deeper. We've got lots of room here. I mean, I got a good, probably, I got 1.25 inches to play with as far as thickness goes, so I can go a bit deeper. I just got to remember there's 1/4 inch of that recess, so I wouldn't go any lower than like 3/4 inch deep, just so I don't cut through and hit that recess there. So I'm going to grab me my larger bowl gouge here and make these cuts a little bit faster, a little bit deeper. I need to go a little bit deeper here, and then bring the cut out a little bit more, and just push it along. Until we start kind of running into where that divot is in the middle. You take all that wood away until it's level. This dome also helps you not go through the wood because it's leaving it thicker in the center where that recess is, which gives the piece a bit more strength. Okay, so I lost the cut because I turned my handle away from the cut. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do some pull cuts just to even that divot out with the rest of it. So I'm just going to bring this tool out like this until everything levels off. And I'm going to grab that straight edge again and see if I got rid of that little concave in the center there. Okay, there's still a little bit, not much. It's just right here towards the center. We'll get rid of that. That's just a slight cut. Because we do have a little bit of need to smooth that area out, and I think we'll be good. Okay, so it is level right here. It's just this high part where that knob is throwing it out. So there's no air right there, but I want this to rock just a little bit. So I want to do some draw cuts and create that slight dome or pull cuts, however, which way you prefer to call it. So just a light cut here. And as I get closer towards me, I'll make the cut a little bit deeper. And I'll just stop right about there. Clean that up with some. We'll take a scraper to this in a little while and clean up all those tool marks. Grab that straight edge and see if we've got a little bit of a dome going. Okay, we do. As you can see, the edges right here, there's a little bit of air showing, and it's kind of level in the middle. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want to make that dome anymore. In fact, I might flatten it out a little bit more. It looks a little too much, so I'm just going to do a little bit more pull cuts right there in the center. And I'll just stop short, kind of even it all out here, and just kind of bring the cut out. And we'll see, take one more look. I think we should be there. Okay, yeah, that's much better. All right, so I'm just going to leave this area right here. I'm just going to clean that up just I'm just going to leave that here because we are going to color it. And if any color gets over the way, over into this area, I want wood there so I can cut it away. So what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of soften the curves of the rim at this point. So I do have some tear out along here, and I don't want that, and I do need to slope that, kind of fix that rim a little bit more. So I'm going to grab me my 1/2-inch bowl gouge, and I'm going to do some slight pull cuts here just to kind of bring that do some cleanup cuts so it flows in towards the center, not away from it. Hopefully I'll get rid of some of that tear out too. Just a nice soft curve towards the rim. You don't want it straight, you want like a nice soft curve. And we're almost there. We need a little bit more taken away right here. And then we'll just go a little bit deeper with this. There's a kind of a flat spot right here. I can feel it. So we need to just work on this spot right there. And we should be good to go. Then I'll touch this part up with sandpaper because I don't want to put color on it without sanding it first. And it'll get rid of any tear out. So now, see, all this is this is a little higher now, but that's okay because we're going to cut that down and make that deeper right there. So that'll be all waste wood. And that way, where the color is, it'll leave a nice crisp line. And then I'm just going to kind of slope it out just a little bit towards the rim here. Kind of an outward curve, just a little bit, not much. That way when you rub your thumbs to it, it feels like it's going in. It's all in the details. Still a little bit of a dip right here, so I need to go in just a little bit deeper right here, probably to where that bottom of that groove is, which is fine. And that way we join everything together nice and softly. So, okay, so we got kind of a bump right there. I am kind of a perfectionist when it comes to this, even on my demo pieces. You know, some wood turners, when they teach a class, they kind of skip over the little details. I'm not one of those. I'm kind of a perfectionist type of guy. Now, if I was to make this in real time, I would probably spend the whole day making it instead of 3 hours. Okay, so I got just a slight bump right in this area that I want to take down. Also, making sure all these little bumps and stuff, if you don't take care of them now, if you leave them, it will show up in the color when you color it. That's why you need to make sure you got all the tool marks out and you sand it to a nice, you don't want to sand it to 600 or anything. I usually sand it up to 220 because you want a little bit of a bite for the colors to soak into. And if you get to like 400 and 600, you're basically polishing the wood and sealing the fibers. And then the color won't get into the wood. So, wow. A little bit of a dip right there. It needs to be cut. This will be the last cut, I promise. Then we'll get on to the coloring.
How thick a rim do you aim for?
How what?
How thick do you try to leave your rim?
How thick? It depends on the piece. This one's probably, I think I've got it, it's probably like 3/8, I think. 3/8, which is a good size rim for a piece this size. And if it's going to be a serving tray, you want a little bit of oomph. You don't want to, if it was just going to be a showpiece sitting on a shelf, then I would probably take it down to like 1/4 of an inch, something like that. But this, I want to make this like to where you could bring it out and with a turkey or something on it for Thanksgiving, or show off your pieces a little bit. So that's what I'm aiming for. So I leave it a little bit thicker if I'm doing that. I need to get all these shavings out of here because I'm going to start coloring. So I want to get my tools out of my way. And I'm going to sand first. So I want to make sure I got all this out of the way. I want a fairly clean area for coloring also. You don't want any shavings or anything getting stuck in your, showing up in your dyes. It's not a fun thing. So the first thing I need, I'm going to grab me a 180 sandpaper. So I've got my 2 sandpapers here. This is my 180. I'm going to fold it into thirds so it doesn't create a whole bunch of heat. When I do the sanding, I'm going to turn the lathe all the way down before I start it back up. And it's pretty well balanced. And I like to sand between 500 and 600 RPMs to start. See how that goes. Just like, oh, I wanted to check to see if there's any major tear out, because if there is, I might have to power sand it. But I think those final cuts did a really good job of getting rid of that tear out. There's very, very little. So that's what helps with doing like nice little soft cuts, is it gets rid of a lot of that tear out roughing cuts take away. So I can turn it up a little bit faster. It's sitting at it's like less than 400. It's too slow for sanding. So if you go too slow, it takes forever and it heats up your sandpaper before it actually does anything for you. If you go too fast, and the wood just skips across the sandpaper and the sandpaper does nothing. It just almost polishes the wood instead of actually sanding the wood. So this initial sanding with 180, you can go down to 120 sometimes depending on the tool marks. It's to get rid of your tool marks and any like rings you might see showing up, and there's some right here, so I want to do a little more sanding. I'm just going to reverse the lathe to do that. Sometimes that helps get rid of that. So I'm just going to hold the sandpaper on the other side. If I was to do it here, it's going to try to force the sandpaper up constantly, and you're going to be fighting your sanding. So I always do it on the opposite side when I reverse the lathe. And I'm going to get to the fresh part of the sandpaper, pull that part out, go again, one more time. And then when I do the 220, it's going to remove any scratches the 180 left behind, because basically your first sandpaper is there to get rid of any tool marks and major scratches or anything, and any subsequent higher grit sandpapers like 220, 320 are used to get rid of the 180 scratches. The 220 gets rid of the 180, the 320 gets rid of the 220, and so on and so forth. But your main sanding that you want to do is with your lower grit. You want to do that first. And these just subsequently just remove any other scratches and creates a much smoother finish. Gets rid of any scratches that might show up in your finish, whether it be oil or spray lacquers or anything like that, or color like we're going to do. And I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to grab me 320 just because it might make the color a little bit better. I'm not going to go any higher than that. If I do, then I'm polishing the wood and sealing up the grain, and I don't want to do that. So I reverse the lathe here, and come across. This happens really quick. You don't need to spend a lot of time on your higher grits. It doesn't matter how long you do it. Once those takes out those previous scratches, then you're just kind of wasting time if you keep on sanding with it. So all right, so okay. So it did leave some scratches here, so I'm just gonna rub them out a little bit by hand. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I can see some lines from in the darker sections of the wood, because that part is harder to sand than the softer wood. The softer wood looks great. It's this harder sections here that's leaving like a little bit of sandy marks. So I'm just sanding by hand with the grain, the 320. And that's pretty much getting rid of those. A little bit more right here, because you don't want any sandy marks because it will show up in your colors. So you don't want to leave sandy marks in that area. So hand sanding with the grain really helps. Yeah, I'm going to grab me a paper towel and wipe it off, and we'll have a look-see. Sometimes the wood dust can kind of throw you a little bit. Okay, so there's oh, that's in the wood. It looked like there was a little divot cut out of the wood, but it's actually in the mark in the wood. So, all right, so we are good to go with the coloring. This is going to look fabulous with the coloring. So let me get that set up real quick. All right, so I need to get my little color tray out. This thing's seen some use, as you can see. Lots of colors, a lot of colors. And I'm going to switch cameras here. So I need to find my dark blue first here. My royal blue, there we are. And I need to wipe that on and just use a paper towel. I need to put my latex gloves on before I do that, because otherwise I'll be scrubbing my hands for 2 weeks trying to get the color out. So what I use, this isn't a dye, this is chestnut stains. It's a wood stain, which just means that the formulation's a little different. And it's alcohol based, so it dries off quick. Water-based dyes, they can be easier to blend over while you're working on it, but it can take a while to dry, and you basically got to pull out during a demo, if you're using water-based dyes, I'd have to pull out a blow dryer and dry the dyes as I go. But with the alcohol-based dyes, I don't have to do that, which is kind of nice. So I'm just going to bring up just trying to decide where I should start. I'm just going to start right here on the top there. So this is royal blue. I'm not too worried about getting too much here, because I am going to, this kind of almost like a channel here to stop the colors from getting down into this area, which is why I left it a little proud. And then I'm going to cut a lot of this down inward. It's going to frame that color really nicely in there. So I'm starting with royal blue, and it's going to get down in a lot of the grain. And to apply the color, I'm using the pads of my fingers, not my fingertips, because that's just going to leave like dark and light lines of the color. If you use the pads of your finger like this, it's going to spread it much nicer across. Just like that. And you want to rub it in really well. See, that's why I left that ridge there, so we can just cut all that off of there. You want to get this really well down into the grain of this, and then believe it or not, we're going to sand a lot of it off. Because this is just sort of like a base coat, almost like the primer for the rest of the dye or the stain.
You said the stain is Chestnut, the name of the company, or?
Yeah, it's out of England, but you can purchase it here through Wood World of Texas. They sell all the colors. So if you go to the Wood World of Texas website and just look up chestnut, you'll see all the different chestnut products that they have, and that includes all these bottles of stain. The actual bottles are bigger than what I'm using. I transferred them into more easier, friendly, usable squeeze bottles that I got at Hobby Lobby. And that cap just fell off my lathe here, so I'm going to reach down here and grab it. I don't need any wood chips or leaky bottles in my tray over here. So yeah, I just want to push it in really well. It's drying already. And probably just one last push, and then we'll take a look at it and make sure we got it in all the places we want. Need a little bit more for that spot. Is the view okay, or should I move the camera up just a little bit? Probably just like, oh, I want that open. That way you guys can see a little bit more what I'm doing. There we go. Memory card's full, but I'm not worried about that. Thing's been full for years. All right, so I'm just going to hit it a little bit more right here. I can see it's a little light, especially where that dark wood is. It's not absorbing it as quick. You just want to go around and just kind of force it into the grain. Now, I'm not going to do like Jimmy Clues likes to do during his demos. After he applies this base coat, because it has alcohol in it, he actually sets it on fire. And he says it dries the alcohol really fast, and then he blows it out. But I don't like playing with fire in my shop, so kind of avoid it, especially with all the chips I made today. Not very fun. If I was outside, that'd be different. All right, so now I need to power sand this. So I'm going to grab me my drill here, and we'll see how that 280 does first. If not, I can go to a lower grit, take more of this off. There we go. So I need to turn the lathe on. And what you want to do is you want to make sure the area of the sandpaper, this is turning down, so you want this part of the sandpaper turning up against the wood, just like I have it here. If I had it go in the same direction as the wood, it would not do its job. So I need to turn the lathe up a little faster. Oh, now it's vibrating. I need to turn it down a little bit. There we go. All right, so this should take a bunch of this off. Maybe not. I'm probably going to have to go down to 180 because I did not really do much of anything. All right, so let me grab me a... This should take quick care of it. We'll see how this goes here. Oh yeah, it's working now. Get it down in that area here. Okay, so it's got a little bit of a line there, so I need to work on that. You don't want to leave any streaks or lines in the piece if you can. And make sure the dye hasn't sunk that up. Okay, so you can see a lot of that dye is going away. So that is finished that disc because it did glaze it over. There is shellac in this stain as a sealer, which is different than a lot of stains you'll find. I need to get right down in this area here. There we go. You want to take a lot of this off, but not so much that it disappears completely. And the sandpaper is only going to take so much off, because you would have to really do a lot of sanding to take it all the way down to where it's all gone. So that's what I'm looking for. Maybe a little bit more on the we'll leave that right there. It needs a little bit, some dark spots there. So that's what we're looking for. We want it to be into the deeper parts of the grain, and the lighter is where the lighter colors are going to go. But this is like a primer, your base coat. So I'm going to move this over here. So I'm going to grab me a lighter color blue. Not the royal blue. You need the just blue. Not black. Definitely not black. All right, so we got the blue. And we're going to go around again. But I'm not going to fill the whole thing up with it. I want to leave some lighter areas for the greens, and then we'll probably add a little bit of yellow to it to create a lighter green. So we're going to... It looks green on the paper towel, if you see that. That's actually blue. So let's see if I can get back to that camera we were at. Where were we? There we are. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of put it in. Leave it light in certain areas. Kind of blend it together so we're not leaving a bunch of streaks. So I'm leaving the inside ring a little bit lighter for the lighter colors, and it's going to get a little darker as you go out towards the rim. So that's why I'm working more on the outside here. And you got to work kind of quick so the stain doesn't dry on you before you can get it all blended in. You don't want to leave any sharp streaks with it. And you can see what it's doing now. The dark blues is showing through, and then you've got the lighter colors right there. The lighter blue is showing through in those lighter areas of the color. So I'm just going to rub it on a different part of my paper towel to blend it. And when I apply the other colors, it'll mix with the alcohol from the previous application, and that will help blend it all together also. And if you want, you can get some denatured alcohol in a spray bottle and lightly spray it and get a clean paper towel, and you can blend the colors together that way. So just a little bit on using my pads and my fingers. Got to remember to do that. A little bit of a sharpness there. I don't want that, so I'm going to rub that away. I got rubbing alcohol, but I forgot to put it in a spray bottle, so we're going to go without it today. Unless I quickly pull that bottle out and fill a spray bottle up with it. But we'll keep on moving on with this. Okay, so we got a little bit of blending to do at the bottom here. Just make sure you don't have any like sharp lines as much as you can. Keep the sharp lines to a minimum. See, it's kind of a sharp line right there, so I want to get rid of that. Keep rubbing it, and it'll blend in. When I apply the green around there, it'll blend in even more. All right, so we got the green now. So this is, I'm not going to go all the way around with the green. I'm just going to kind of dab it in certain areas. That way when I come back with the yellow, I can fill it in with the yellow. So I'm just going to kind of touch it up where it's got mostly a lot of, blend those two together right in this area here. And it's going to show up darker in some areas because of the grain pattern. Like it did right there. You got like a dark spot right there. That's where the denatured alcohol would really come in handy. Kind of get rid of that. So, so I'm going to just kind of skip over some areas. In fact, the way it's going, I might grab that. It'll only take me a moment if you guys don't mind. I'll grab that denatured alcohol. It seems to help a lot when you're blending this stuff together. And you can also go back and add a little more blue over this if you don't think it's blue enough. That's the joy of these type of colors with alcohol in them. You can come back and add some color over it. Got that blue, got that kind of lightness around there. So that's really looking green on the camera. And it is, so I'm going to come back with that blue again, go over it. Not the royal blue, but the other blue, the lighter blue. Basically regular blue. If I can grab the right bottle here. There it is. So here's that piece I used earlier. Blue. Yeah, it's coming out a little greener than I thought. So we're going to just kind of go around it with a little more blue here. Just touch it up. Kind of flick it onto the wood. I wasn't happy with the almost all green. So I'm kind of flipping it outwards towards the rim.
How's the shelf life on that stain?
I've had this stain, I've had it, wow, since 2014. And the thing about it, it's got pigments in it, and if the bottle seems like it's shrinking, the pigments aren't going to go anywhere. So you can just add more denatured alcohol to it, and it'll be like brand new again. If it seems like some of it's evaporating out of the bottles. That's what I haven't tried that with water-based stains, but I know with alcohol you could do that, so it's kind of nice. So I'm kind of flicking it, following the grain pattern. Need to get a little more right there. Created a line right there. I don't know where that came from. There it goes. So how's that? See, it looks really green on camera, but it's not so much in the shop. And I'm afraid to add any yellow to it because it needs a lot more blue, I think. Darken that up a little bit. I might touch it with a little more royal blue, just to darken it up. Not a whole lot, but just to give it a little more bluish color to it. To me, it's a little too green. I like more blue color. So I'm going to grab that royal blue real quick. Just flick it like a little bit, not much, just a little bit. Just kind of flick it on there. I'm not going to go over the whole thing with it. Just a nice light. Towards around the outer rim of it. That's where I'm hoping to get some more blue into it. There we go. Yeah, that looks better. Now you guys can see that blue coming through a little more. I'm gonna blend it in. It's gonna have a little bit more dark spots, but that's all right. So, gonna blend those streaks out of there. I'm gonna fold this over into a pad. Makes it a little bit easier to apply. And now for finishing on the rim, if I was to finish it today, I would, before I cut the inside, I would spray it with lacquer, a few coats of lacquer, and then polish that up. Maybe with some like microcrystalline wax or something, just to polish it up a little bit. And then I would cut the inside and use walnut oil on the inside and on the back to as a general finish. But you don't want to put the lacquer on after you've cut the inside, then try to put oil on, because then it won't work out that well. But since this is a project piece, I'm not going to apply any finish on it today. Now I'll probably be able to mask this center out before I spray lacquer on it later on. So we got a nice rainbow of colors going there. Let's see, there's like a, rub some of this out using a lighter color. So I'm going to just add just a touch of yellow just to fill it in. Get rid of these other bottles so I'm not knocking them over. Some people like to actually mix red with the blues. This can make it a kind of a different kind of color, but to me it doesn't look right from my perspective anyway. So here's the yellow, and I'm just going to do this on the inside areas here along the rim, just for a filler. And it'll make that green we applied, or the blues, a little lighter. It'll deepen it into more of a greenish color than a dark blue. So I'm just going all the way around it with a light coat of, and you can see by this, because it's mixing, the alcohol is mixing with the other colors. That's why I'm getting a blending color here, and that's what I'm looking for this. So I'm just kind of adding it on there, just as a filler. You don't want any white spots showing up on the rim. And this is actually helping blend all the colors together, also getting rid of any streaks that might have been left behind. It's just blending everything together, and it's so light you're not really going to notice it all that much. As far as, see how it lightened that area up really nice because of the alcohol in it. Took a lot of that off. That's probably an area of the wood that's harder. Probably the heartwood, I think, is where I did that at. And I want to bring it around and kind of see if I can lighten this area up just a tad. Take some of that blue away that we just put on because it seemed a little. You can go back and forth with these colors and just blend, blend, blend until you're happy with it. See, that lightened up that blue air, that dark, really dark blue patch. And I'll probably do the same thing here so you can see the green a little bit better. All right, there we go. I think we're set for this. It looks very nice, and we've got some. I can come back later date and do this before I actually spray any lacquer on it, because any alcohol will rejuvenate this even if it's after drying on the wood. So you're not done yet until if you're not satisfied with it, you either cut it all off or you can apply rubbing alcohol or denatured alcohol. Don't use rubbing alcohol. And you can lighten it, blend it. If you spray it with alcohol and just take a clean paper towel, you can take some of the darkness out of it if that's what you're looking for. So we've got a really pretty piece here going. So I'm going to stop there, and we can go on after I get a drink again, and we will finish this up. All right, so I'm going to grab me my 1/2-inch bow gouge. See, the colors are already dry because of the alcohol, so I can get back to turning really quick. So I want to get rid of this center knob here. So I'm just going to do push cuts like I've done before towards the headstock, just light cuts. No, don't need to take big bites, because this part of the wood is moving kind of slow compared to the outer rim of it. So slower cuts are much easier to do. There we go. I'm going to get rid of that. We're going to blend this all together here. Now I'm just going to do some pull cuts and try to get that to blend in with that dome we were creating here. And I'll probably get me a scraper here to clean that nubbin off of there. Okay, so it's still kind of a bump there, so I want to just blend it all together. And it won't hurt to stop the lathe and get a straight edge, and just make sure you're not going too far and creating a divot. I need to take these gloves off. I forgot. There we go. Where's my turning glove on? All right. So, yeah, it looks like it's still a little high. Oh, yeah. It's got a little ways to go yet. All right. Now I can do a push cut just to get rid of that little knob out of the middle there. Now smooth that out. And I'm just kind of blending it all together here into that dome area. And again, another push cut coming up, almost kind of like an angle up from the bottom here. And that'll get rid of that. And just kind of slowly peel it away. There's nothing worse than having a little knob in the middle of your work, you know. And then it's frustrating when you're trying to sand it away. It's better to cut it away. And I probably created a little divot around that center point there. I did. It kind of, the wood chipped out a little bit there. So I need to go a little bit deeper, which is all right because I can still feel I can go a little bit more. That little nubbin chipped out on me there in the middle. So we need to took like a little bit of a piece out of it. So I'm going to grab me my scraper here in a minute and just kind of blend that in with my scraper. It'll make it all easy, much easier. All right, so I'm gonna grab me my bowl type scraper here. It's got that round edge there. But what I want to do is I want to raise my tool rest just a little bit here. Yeah, stop the lathe before I do that, because this has to be done on an angle too. Yeah, it's got that little bit of a divot. It's going to fight me all the way until I get a scraper in there. There's a little bit of a spot right there. It keeps chipping out. And I want to get rid of that. So this scraper is going to do a better job of it than the gouge, because the gouge is just going to continue to chip it out where a scraper won't. And I'm just tilting the scraper just a little. I'm just coming up from the bottom and into where that little divot is, and then moving my tool away. This also shows you the way it's cutting. It'll show you if there's any high or low spots, because you'll see like light little rings in the wood. But my biggest concern right now is that center divot. So it's always look ugly. So it's almost done. It's just right there on a piece of grain right there. So but we almost got it gone. I just want to continue working on that. Just that one area there, and then I'll blend everything together. Using the scraper to come across. Looks like it made a divot again. No, it didn't. All right, it's just the wood. Yeah, just a little more smoothing to go, and we'll be ready. I'll now I'll do a shear cut with my scraper, and it'll do a much better job than this one. I'll get my shear scraper out and go across this whole face here in a minute. So, all right, so here's my shear scraper. And it's got a round curve on it. The thing that's different about it, it's made out of a round bar and it's cut in half, which allows me to put this on an angle, any angle I want. And I'm going to bring it across just like this. I need to bring the tool rest back down though. A little too high for this tool. I want it to be on center. It works just like a regular scraper. You create a nice burr on the end there. And you tilt the tool on its side using that round bar, and you can just bring it gently across. These tools, I got it through Craft Supplies if you're interested in them. They're called Tracy Owen shear scrapers. So it's leaving a dark line there. I'm not sure what, I think that's the heartwood. And I'm just going to gently touch that center point without trying to create another divot there. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it about here because we still need to finish up that area there. So I'm going to grab me my 1/2-inch spindle gouge again. I need to slide my tailstock out of the way. And I want to poke my arm into that point. It's never a good feeling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing the arm of my handle of my tool of my chisel all the way back this way. Put my body up against the lathe bed here, and I'm just going to open it up at almost 45 degrees. The flue. Nope. You got to close it up until it gets a good cut, and then open it up. Kind of swing it around. And this is just getting rid of that large lip that was like sort of like a dam that was protecting the rest of this wood from the colors. get the proper depth. And we're going to clean this up. And we're going to have a look to see how much more we got to take off right in this section right here. So we need to go a little bit deeper right here. So I'm just going to do a couple of pull cuts right up into this and stop just short. And then we'll come back and do the opposite kind of cut. You want to keep that shape of that dome going here. So we're just going to stop right in this area here. We don't want to go too far in. And then I need to come back around with my tool here and just kind of clean that area up. Just kind of a push cut and then slide over towards the middle. Push cut towards the headstock and then just kind of even out that depth there. There we go. And we're going to have a feel of it. It looks like there's still a little bit of a high spot in there. Right here. It's like almost like a shelf. I don't like that at all, so I'm going to get rid of that. Kind of do a sweeping cut from the rim and then towards the center. And then lightly come out of that cut. So everything evens out. Everything kind of equals out and joins together on the curve. That looks much better. I bet you that feels better too. All right, still a little bit of a bump. So I'm going to come back in with my other scraper here that we used earlier, and we're just going to clean that up. Just bring this tool in like this with the tool handle up. And we should be fine. Need to raise the tool rest up a little bit again. Not much. So it's right in on the center. That's good. So we're just going to bring that corner of this scraper in, and I'm just going to touch it to the wood nice and gently. And we're just going to gently blend everything together here. See if there's any tool marks we can get rid of along the way. We'll go a little bit deeper here. You can still see a slight kind of shelf, if you will. It drops down into the dome, and I want that dome to blend all the way to the rim. All right, here we go. I need to switch this back. Okay, there. See everybody. Oh, a lot of people are hanging in there. That's good. All right, just a little bit more with that scraper, and we should be good to go. It's kind of a high spot right in this area still, so I want to kind of need to go a little bit deeper to get rid of that. So I'm using the corner of the scraper to get that nice sharp corner down in there. Let's see how that looks. All right. All right. Got a nice shape there going. So I'm just going to bring this corner of the scraper in a little bit more. Clean that part up of the rim there. Because it was looking kind of shabby. left a tool mark right there. Kind of jumped into the wood. And I think we're about good right there. So, all right. All right, we got a really nice shape there. Domes out to the rim. So what I want to do next, I'm going to frame this color. I'm just going to create a bead right here. All that color is going to disappear, but it's going to create a bead. So I'm going to get that point tool out that I had earlier. Then I'll use a spindle gouge to finish off that bead. So about right here. This gives us a space for that spindle gouge to work. And we're just going to bring it in and just gently, gently bring it into the wood. And we're just going to kind of create a bead right here. Start with the lathe straight up, with bevel rubbing, and then lift the handle until it starts cutting. And then twist the tool while pushing in. There we go. And then we're going to do this opposite direction here on this side. I'm just going to make sure all that color's disappeared too. And there's still a little color left, so I'm going to make sure I cut all that out of there. Oop. I'm skipping. This tool probably needs a little sharpening there. All right, sandpaper would clean that up, make it a nice curve on that bead. So it did leave a little bit of a tool mark right there, so I'm going to clean that up. A little bit of a flat right here, so I want to get rid of that. I want to blend it all the way down into there. There we go. Yeah, it's got a high spot crown right on it, and it's got some little bit of tear out, but sandpaper would take care of that. Just like in the center here, there's some tear out, but power sanding would get rid of that. So now, last thing to do is to round over this outside rim here. So I'm going to grab me my smaller, let's see if I can grab it here, my smaller tool rest. It'll make it easier. So work my way around the rim here. Now that the piece is a little bit smaller, I can get my tool rest around it there. And just kind of bend it in a little bit. That's still a little bit big, but we'll get it to work. So I just want to take my 1/2-inch bowl gouge, and I'm just going to kind of lay my tool on its side, and I'm just going to gently create a curve on both sides of the rim. I need to kick some of these shavings out of the way, otherwise I can't stand there. And just going to gently do this. We're almost done. Don't drop out yet. So also get rid of some of those tool marks that were left behind from earlier. And I'm going to come back and do the opposite way. Firmly hold it with my thumb so it doesn't skip around on me. And then I would bring sandpaper into play at this point and just clean all that up. It would help create the curve a little bit more. So I need to come back around this way, put my hand over the top of my tool. And I still see a tool mark right here, so I want to get rid of that. Just gently cut it. Flute almost closed. It's kind of a deep tool mark that sandpaper would be difficult to get out. There we go. That's gone. And now to frame, put a nice frame around that, the color, because it just kind of looks like it falls away. This will frame it a little bit better. I'm going to grab me my parting tool. Remember where I put that darn thing. I had it. Did it fall on the floor again? I don't see it. Well, heck. Probably have to use a different tool. I can use my scraper here. I'd rather use my parting tool, but my scraper's going to do this. I'm just going to bring this in, and I'm just going to create just a small groove right here. Nope. That was my banjo touching the piece. So I'm just going to bring this in very gently till that color disappears. And it kind of creates a frame around the color. And we'll see what that did. See, it created that nice frame around there. So at this point, I would take it to sanding, and then finishing, like I said, I would oil the back with walnut oil. Well, walnut in it. I like to use Doctor's Woodshop finishing walnut oil, or Mike Mahoney's walnut oil is really nice. I would power sand all this first to get rid of any tear out and shape this a little bit better, like doing some hand sanding too. And then at this point, I would spray, after putting the color on, spray with lacquer before cutting out the center. And that way you could just put nice walnut oil in the center. If the walnut oil gets onto the lacquer, it's not going to hurt it. But you don't want any film type of finish in the center where your food's going to be, because it will wear out. Walnut oil finish and stuff, it's much easier to reapply and create that finish, bring it back to life, than trying to repair a film finish like lacquer or polyurethane or anything like that. So my voice is going. And so that's today's demonstration. I want to say thank you to everybody for coming in too.
Thank you for recording the available.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you next time. All right. Good night. Good afternoon, wherever you are.